Finally, I want to talk about, oh, you know what? Not finally. This is important. I'm going to cut this and put it at the very front of the video. So, okay, welcome. I got an email and some comments from Rick Croucher. Thank you so much for purchasing the book. But it reminded me, I don't talk about this enough. I have a book. You can go read my book. It's funny. You can download it for $10. It's an ebook on my website. But more importantly, I'm going to have more books coming out, and the next one will be free. And all you have to do to get the book, if you want to, if you don't want the book, that's fine. If you don't want more of me in your life, I totally understand that. Neither do I. But you can go to the link below, sign up on my mailing list, and I will tell you when the free book comes out. Actually, I will send you a link to the free book. Now, it's a photo book. It's not like Gribley's Folly where there's a lot of text, but there is some text, and the photos are pretty good. I am, after all, kind of okay at photography. I also have a Patreon, so if you actually want to pay to be more inside my inner circle, you can do that. Some people do want to see what's going on in here. Morbid curiosity, I suppose. Some people like to watch train wrecks. There's like YouTube compilations of train wrecks. If you're one of those people, you can go to my Patreon and watch this train wreck unfold in perpetuity. I'll put a link down below. Okay. Let's get on with the video, and then at some point in the video, we're gonna fast forward back in time to now, when I just cut this out. It's weird when I do that, right? It's like the twin paradox level weird. Les Brady says, the antisocial is my church, blessed be. No, let's not go there. Like, I'm really uncomfortable with that. I went to church last weekend, and I took my son, who is going to be 9 in December, and I took my mom, who's in her 70s, early 70s, and it's worth noting, as I always do, that my father was a Presbyterian minister. We had interesting reactions. My mom hated it, I found it incredibly uncomfortable, and my son actually liked it. And by liked it, I mean, we have to be careful with this, right? Because he didn't say, I really like that. What happened was, when we were leaving, I was like, was that better or worse than school? And he was like, better. That means he liked it. So I took from this roundup of our reactions, that the church that we went to, which is a progressive Presbyterian church here in Asheville, like, they're the people that get protested against when the Westboro Baptist Church folks come to town. They set up outside this church and wave their signs, and this church is probably doing something right. Like, if you make the middle-aged guy uncomfortable, the kid likes it, and the older person hates it, you're threading the needle perfectly. There was a lot. The reason my mom didn't like it is because, well, number one, it didn't have like pomp and circumstance, and nobody had like gold vestments or anything like that. And number two, there was a lot of political content, and I was uncomfortable with that too, because for my entire life, I have believed that you should not preach politics from the pulpit. That's like a taboo that should not be broken. And they went as far as to actually address specific ordinances before the city council that came up this week, and man, that is just way too specific for me. When you're telling people, hey, go comment at this particular meeting on this particular ordinance, that crosses all kinds of boundaries. Not to mention the boundary of, like, you're a nonprofit, you're 501c3, like, what do you? Well, that's not cool. And then as I was thinking, because it was about a 90-minute service, which is, again, crossing all kinds of boundaries. The church service is 1 hour. If it's going to be more than 1 hour, you need to let people know up front, especially when they're bringing their 9-year-old, right? Like, anyway, I wasn't happy with that. And I wasn't happy with the politics. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, the other side has been violating this taboo for generations. Telling people how to vote is like a rich, storied tradition in Baptist churches. Why should this, super progressive Presbyterian church be held to a higher standard? Well, because Jesus never got involved in politics, and actually, hang on a second. No one wants to talk about this, least of all me, but if ever there were a social justice warrior, it was Jesus Christ. I don't like it. I don't like that. I'm not comfortable with that. But it's true. And so you have to then say, is church where you go because you want to feel safe? My mom is like, this is a worship service. This stuff has no place in a worship service. This is my safe space from politics. Was church a safe space for Jesus and the disciples? Was church a safe space for early Christians for 300 years? I mean, we're talking about people that were crucified. They were martyred. It was the opposite of a safe space. We have no idea how privileged we are to be able to worship as we choose. I mean, beyond early Christians, just all of history. Church, whether it's Christian church or Muslim church, or church is dangerous as hell. I mean, talk to Jews in the first half of the 20th century. You know, like, is your synagogue a safe space when you're a German Jew? So I don't know. I think that's a pretty. I think that it's a pretty narrow definition, and I didn't like it. I did not like having these thoughts. Frankly, I just wanted to take my kids somewhere on a Sunday morning and feel like we didn't waste our time playing video games. That was all I wanted. I didn't expect to be made to think. This is the Gribbly's Folly Sunday Antisocial Hour, that time each week when I smoke my pipe and complain about humanity while answering all of its questions. And if you are a piece of humanity with a question for me, leave it in the comments down below with the hashtag Ask. I just hit myself in the hat. There's no room. I live in a tiny house. You guys don't understand because I never show it, because I've always got this shallow depth of field stuff. Tiny, tiny house. No space to smoke my pipe. No space. I've got a garage. Do you know how hot it is in that garage? Then I'm going to get people saying, oh, you know how hot it is where I am? You know how cold it is where I am? It's the problem with living in a temperate climate, is that everybody else always tries to one-up you. Like, damn, it's cold outside. Oh, yeah, well, I'm in Minnesota, and it's like negative 400 degrees outside. There's woolly mammoths walking around until they freeze to death and die. Come spring, we're going to be sawing off mammoth steaks to cook over the fire. Anyway, so yes, it's uncomfortably warm. That's what matters. By the way, I haven't had air conditioning in my car for years and years. I'm finally getting it fixed because I've been driving around with my kid in the car, and I look back at him, and he's like cheeks are flushed, just sweat's just pouring off of both of us. I'm like, you know, this just isn't, like, I wanted to be tough about it. I never had air conditioning growing up, but I can't. At a certain point, you just kind of have to say the world has moved on. The world has changed. Even if you want to like ignore climate change, we live in parking lots now. Like when I was growing up, I drove down a 2-lane road in the shade to get where I was going. Now I got to take my kid across town on the interstate that is always backed up. We're sitting there with no movement in a car. It's literally the greenhouse effect. Now, of course, I've rolled the windows down because I don't want to die. But you know, it's a different thing. It's a whole different thing. Like, the air conditioning is a necessity, and yeah, I'm getting it fixed, and I'm happy about it. Even though it does feels like I wussed out a little bit. Anyway, I'm currently, like, it's 90-something degrees outside right now, which is very hot. It's probably about as hot as we ever get here. And I'm sitting over the air conditioning vent in my office. I'm about a foot away. You guys don't know this. I'm using trickery to make it seem like there's more room than there is. It's really cramped. We're all stuck in this house. Summer has been long and hot. Let me tell you, the first day of school is Monday. When I was in school, you always went back way too soon. It was like August 1. If they could make, it was like August -5th. They sent you back to school. They're like, here's your meet your teacher. You're the teacher's problem now. No, not anymore. August 28th, that's when my kid starts school. The gentleman scholar asks Gribbs, yoga is anti-Christian? Of course it's not. Of course it's not anti-Christian, but I had a friend who insisted that it was. And I've heard this because I live in the Bible Belt, right? I've heard this my entire life, is that yoga is a spiritual practice, and let's be honest, it is. And it's not compatible with Christianity. Let's be honest, it is compatible with Christianity. There is nothing in Christianity that says don't do yoga. And people will point to the I am the way, the truth, and the light, not I am a way. why are we parsing things that have been translated from like several different translations over the course of 2,000 years? Do you really think Jesus cares if you do your stretches? Do you really? Some people do. Some people think that. And I was, going back to the non-duality thing that the yoga guy was talking about last time. Let's see, who was it? It was Fireplug. Asked Gribbs, do you think the boomer hipster was trying to romance the grannies that were there? I happen to know that this person is married in a long-term marriage, so I don't think so. And I didn't get the creepy vibe from him. I just got the kind of clueless, hippie boomer vibe. I didn't, yeah. But what he was saying about non-duality was is exactly what Christians believe. Like, there's so much compatibility between world religions, and it's only because we're all a bunch of assholes that we think that there isn't. And I extend that, as you know, I extend that accusation across all types of humanity. All types. And I accept it myself. But yeah, I would have conversations with this friend of mine that thought that yoga was anti-Christian. We would talk about meditation and how that was anti-Christian. It's like, dude, what do you think Jesus was doing out there in the desert for 40 days and nights? You think he was just like scrolling through TikTok on his phone? Blake MDCCCXXVII says, I've been doing yoga once a week at the gym for the past 2+ years. Its side effects are on par with smoking my pipe, with clearing my mind and relaxing. It also helps that I don't feel like a Gen X cripple anymore. That is my main motivation at this point. And then he says, because I was talking about getting rid of possessions and pipes, he says, I hang on to 75% of my pipes at this point as art pieces, and I have a handful of workhorse pipes. That is exactly the situation I'm in. It's like, I can't get rid of them, but I'm not gonna smoke them. Yeah, and I've found more peace with that since our last talk, and I think we had, collapse experiment. Ask Gribbs. Even the Iceman had possessions when he died in that cave. Are you trying to own nothing and be happy, like the WEF wants, the World Economic Fund, I guess is what he's referring to? Are you trying to own nothing and be happy? Collapse experiment, you are way off base. We learn in the documentary Top Gun Maverick that Iceman did not die in a cave. He died from cancer after he became an admiral and had no lines in the movie. What the hell was that? What the hell? Why would you cast Val Kilmer? How much they're like, we've got the budget to get Val Kilmer, but not enough to make him talk? What was up with that? Collapse experiment also says, talking about the range, I'm assuming the range where I donated the BB gun, I'm assuming that is not the range where the young girl killed the instructor with the Uzi that was not NRA certified. What he's referring to here is a video that surfaced on the internet of an accident at a gun range where, an instructor was an instructor, but I think the parents were like, we're taking our little girl to the range. She was less than 8. She was either 8 or anyway. She was very young. We're taking our little girl to the range, and we're going to start her off with an Uzi. For those of you who do not know and have never seen an 80s action movie, an Uzi is a submachine pistol manufactured in Israel, and typically they're in 9mm, and they're not really hand-holdable by a person of small stature, and by that I mean a child of 8 years old. That's a terrible idea. So in this video, they line the girl up at the range and she squeezes the trigger and lets off a full auto burst, because of course your instinct when you're squeezing something to begin with, and then it starts to jump around in your hand, your instinct is not to let go of the trigger. Your instinct is to hold it tighter, and so of course the Uzi just jumps up and shoots the instructor right in the head. Boom, sack of potatoes, dead right there. It's a horrible video, and honestly it was a big factor in my personal migration away from the idea that guns are anything other than necessary evils. And then you get people saying, oh, well, yeah, but you got so much other dangerous shit in your house that you let your kids run. Yeah, okay, so I've got bleach under the sink, but I'm not like hey, son, I'm going to load your super soaker up with bleach. Do you want to go out in the yard and practice shooting it? Like, that's not, no, you keep it healthy. So obviously, as we have said, whether or not there is a right for everyone to own a gun, there are definitely people that should not own guns. Martin Stinsby says, do you think people with ADHD are more intelligent than the average population? I don't have ADHD, but I'm convinced they are. My girlfriend for 10 years obviously has it, and it hits me daily. Yeah, when you live with someone who has ADHD, you are exposed to it. And part of my process is with this issue is that I've realized how much I have exposed everyone to it. She can be totally oblivious for hours just to pop up with brilliant ideas, thoughts, and knowledge. My son is spelling words. He's starting 3rd grade on Monday. He is spelling words that I found on the internet for an 8th grade spelling bee. But if you ask him to sort change, dimes, nickels, quarters, pennies, he can't pay attention long enough to sort it. It's not that he doesn't know, it's that he just can't focus. So it's a very, anyway, do I think these people are more intelligent? I don't know about more intelligent, because cognitive ability doesn't necessarily equal, I don't know. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm just some dude on the internet. So I have no idea, but I think that people with ADHD have brains that work faster. Does that mean they're smarter? Maybe, because they can, we can parse information faster. We're good at pattern recognition. We're usually hyper vigilant, or I've read that, or hyper intuitive. Not necessarily hyper vigilant, because you're not necessarily paying attention. But when you do pay attention, you pick up on things that other people don't pick up on because you're paying such close attention. I don't know. It's a good question. At least as good as our next question, which comes from Brian VB4XM, which sounds an awful lot like a ham radio call sign, VB4XM. Hang on a second. Victor Bravo 4 X-ray Mike. We'll search for that. Is there? No. Okay, VB. It would be a call sign from Canada, but I don't see it in QRZ. Are you a ham, Brian? That's my question for you. His question is, would you rather break in the new pipe with Elizabethan mixture, or wrestle a gang of oil-slicked sumo wrestlers? I will take the sumo wrestlers any day, because at least that would be a better story than throwing up on myself. I'm gonna re-record. I'm gonna retell the story of the Elizabethan mixture incident. The incident that, it was bad. I'm gonna retell the story because I feel like I have grown as a presenter, and it's a good story. It needs to be retold. I'm actually thinking of retelling a lot of my old stories. I'm actually thinking of doing millions of things that I'll never be able to do because my life is total chaos. So, yeah, I don't know why I told you that, because I'm obviously never going to do it. In fact, let's just go ahead and get another few things out of the way that I'm probably never going to do. Dirty South Volume 4127, Ask Gribs, on my dirt cheap fly tying video. Ask Gribs, is this the only video in the Dirt Cheap series? I would like to see more if possible. I have plans to create a dirt cheap film photography video. There are ways it can be done, not as dirt cheap as fly tying, but there are definitely ways it can be done, and I would really like to make that video as soon as my kid graduates from college and I retire. Speaking of which, I had an email from someone, and people don't, I don't want to share their email address. I believe her name was Sally, asking me to do a video on lighting a pipe with paper matches, I think. I don't like paper matches, so I don't own any. But I don't know what I don't have any expertise about how to light a pipe with paper matches, other than just if I had the time and energy to smoke my pipe the way I want to, I would always use long wooden matches. But I don't, so I use a Bic lighter. So paper matches, you just burn your fingers. There's not enough burn time on a paper match. But I do plan on, the next time I come across some paper matches, I plan on making a video in which I use them to light my pipe. Will I make an instructional video? Probably not. There's so many pipe instruction videos. There's so many out there. Why would I make another? On the dirt cheap fly tying video, Kevin Kevin says, I asked my grandpa which fly I should use. He said it doesn't matter as long as it's brown. I've never found this to be wrong. I agree, and I think there's wisdom here. I think that which tobacco should I smoke? It doesn't matter as long as it's in English. Which begs the question, are we more discerning about our pipe tobaccos than trout are about their flies? Like, I want to see one of the big pipe channels, stuffing things or somebody, get a bunch of pipe smokers together, blindfold them, stick pipes in there, get a bunch of legends, so they all got the same pipe, stick them in their mouths, and put different tobaccos in them and see if people can even tell the difference. Can you? Now, I think we could probably, you could tell, this is an English, this is an aromatic. This one's, maybe you could tell vapors. You could definitely tell this one has a lot of Kia or it doesn't. You could tell if the nicotine content was too high because you'd be throwing up so hard. Puke would be spouting out of your pipe onto the blindfold, right? But other than that, I don't know. I don't know if I could tell the difference. Finally, I want to talk about, not finally, this is important. I'm going to cut this and put it at the very front of the video. So, okay, welcome. I got an email and some comments from Rick Croucher. Thank you so much. Okay, we're back from our weird back in time section. That was strange. So I've been getting some comments about the photo videos that I wanted to address. And let's see. MG Man 6000 says, I have a C33. We're talking about the Mamiya C330, which is an absolute dump truck of a camera. Don't people usually use that phrase to refer to a woman's ass? It's kind of still true. It is a voluptuous camera in the sense of there's a lot of it. It's just heavy. It's hard to carry it around in the woods. So I made this video a while back about carrying my C330 in the woods. You know what? I'll put a link to that down below as well. We're just gonna have so many links in the video. I'm gonna totally forget all these links. But carrying around the C330 in the woods was quite a chore, and I did end up selling that camera. Sorry, MG Man. Sorry, because what he says is he really loved his Mamiya C-Series cameras and bought them dirt cheap back in the day, just like we all did. There were these times when you could buy a camera at a reasonable price, and that's not the case anymore. But I remember there was a time when you could get an entire Hasselblad kit for $500, and I really should have done that several times over. Should have done that, but I never did. I'll probably never own a Hasselblad now, and I'm kind of at peace with that. Anyway, he says that I would regret selling my Mamiya, and I kind of do. But the minute I would have to carry it around, I think I would stop regretting it. On my origin story, Films Photo Safari, these are old videos. People are finding these videos. What a great video. You touched my heart. This is from Neil Piper. I have a 4x5 press camera with a Schneider Xenar 135-47. I have that lens. Do I have that lens? I've used that lens. It's a great lens. I don't think I own it. And a Yashica mat. Might get a Mamiya C33 with the 82.8 and do a similar trip to Norfolk, where I was born and partly raised. You should definitely do that. I just made the case for why you shouldn't do it with a Mamiya. But you know what? If you're not in the woods, if you're like driving in a car and you get out and you take pictures of something, it's a great camera. It's wonderful. It's just that putting it in a backpack and hiking around with it, and having the rack and pinion wheels for the bellows. I just was always so worried that it had so much mass that I would bump something and it would bend the axle there, and that would suck. Honestly, these days I'm either shooting digital or 4x5. I'm not shooting a lot of medium format because if you're going to slow down enough to shoot medium format, why not shoot large format? We haven't talked about photography a lot because I've been so into pipes lately, and talking about pipes and pipe culture, I think, is what I'm really talking about. So yeah, I would like to get back into making some photo videos. I made a couple of photo adventure videos back in the late spring, that you should totally go watch, and I won't put a link down below. That's the truth. Thank you so much for watching another Gribbly's Folly Sunday Antisocial Hour. I hope you have a good week. I might take the next week off, just so you know, just a little warning there. It's going to be my first week without a kiddo who's out of school for the summer, so I might really buckle down and try to, like, I don't know, do my job or something, get some work done. That'd be nice. Yeah. But videos coming your way no matter what. I got some ideas. I'll never do them. Never mind. Nothing is ever going to happen. Thank you so much. This has been Gribbly's Folly. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.